What's going on, everyone? So before we got into the season, one of the teams I said that I'd really be keeping an eye on, and I even did several videos about, was the Oklahoma City Thunder. I thought that they had potential to be a very good team, that they were a team that I think could make the playoffs, not the play-in, the actual playoffs in the Western Conference, and could even be a team that maybe surprises one of these teams in the right matchup. And so far, it's only been 2 games, so I don't want to get too ahead. But the Thunder have looked very good. They've started the season 2-0. Let's give them the NBA championship now. But no, in all seriousness, they've actually looked very decent, right? They most recent game was against the Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland, and were able to close that out and get that win down the stretch, which was huge, right? And you're seeing the team really kind of come into form. And this is a team that's going to be very good, in my opinion, for the foreseeable future. Like, OKC is one of the teams that I like. I really love their young core, right? There's a couple teams in this league that have, decent cores. Obviously, the San Antonio Spurs with Wemby. How does that look? How do they round out? Does Wemby continue to just shine, or at some point does he become the guy that people believe he will be, or does he kind of balance out a little bit? Time will tell there. The Trailblazers, they have a nice squad. Scoot Henderson's struggling right now, but I don't think that that's anything major, right? That's usually how rookies come in. I know some people are panicking and going, the guy looks like a bust. Like, let's give it more than 2 games. But Trailblazers, again, they have nice young core. Rockets, I'm kind of iffy on the Rockets. Not like super sold on them, but they got a solid young core. Same thing with the Jazz. Like, I'm kind of iffy on the Jazz. But Detroit, right? Again, kind of iffy. I think that they have a couple guys that could make some noise and could have some potential, but not super sold on them. But I look at the Thunder and I'm like, yeah, I'm sold, right? Like, again, I'm not saying that they're the next dynasty, sign them up, but Oklahoma City is strapped for the next decade, right? They have more draft picks than they're going to know what to do with. At some point, there's going to be a star that becomes available that makes sense, and they're going to be able to go and acquire that player. They have flexibility, they have draft picks, they have tradable assets and players and pieces, and then you even have your core guys with Giddey, Chet, and SGA. Speaking specifically of Chet and SGA, I mean, Chet has looked solid. I know he's had his embarrassing moments and people kind of, have made fun of him about that. But again, it's his first year in the actual NBA. He's still frail and needs to get into his grown man body. He's going to have those moments where he just gets bumped. He did have that ankle breaker, which is also always, pretty, pretty rough when that happens to you. But, it's part of the game of basketball. It happens. And he came out and delivered with 6, 7 blocks in the last game. And he even feels like he was cheated out of those 7, that there should have been more. And he's looking like a force on the defensive side. He's looking like the offensive weapon that they had hoped that he would be. He's only going to improve and get better. You have SGA, who's picking up his MVP argument campaign last season, picking right back up this season and looking like an absolute stud and talent. You have these 2 guys with Josh Giddey, who can kind of do a little bit of everything and is a nice little balance for them, but he even becomes a very good trade chip if you need that piece to push it over, right? Like, what if Joel Embiid becomes available, right? And do they go and make a push for Joel Embiid? Imagine Chet, Embiid, and SGA. That would be pretty tough, right? Or if anybody, time will tell. We'll see. But you got to imagine at some point there's going to be that other star. And Oklahoma City has more assets than anybody in the league. And that's not counting if they go and just continue to draft well, continue to build well. Hopefully the Thunder have learned their lesson in the past, right? Because it doesn't feel like it was that long ago where you had James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Russell Westbrook were in the NBA Finals and decided, we don't want to pay James Harden. And eventually that just whole thing fell apart, right? So hopefully Sam Presti and the Oklahoma City Thunder have learned their lesson from past mistakes, and they keep the main pieces together. They pay whatever they need to pay because Oklahoma City is primed and in the right position to take over this league in the next like 3 years. All right. So I'm they're one of the teams that I want to see. I really like what SGA is doing. I really like seeing what Chet Holmgren has the potential of doing. And this year just feels like is that first step right into the beginning of the strides. You saw that even with the Thunder back in the day with James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Russell Westbrook. They had that year where they were like borderline and like the surprise team. And then they followed that year up with like actually making it to the playoffs. They ended up being a first round exit. Then the next year, second round exit. Then the next year they were in the conference finals. And then the next year they were in the NBA finals. And it was like, all right, like every year you have improved. Every year you've gotten farther. Every year you seem to get better and better. It just felt like it was inevitable that they were going to win an NBA championship. And then they, tore it down. And it was like, well, that was foolish. And it's like, that's kind of where it feels like Oklahoma City is at right now, right? Feels like the Thunder, last year they were the surprise team. This year, maybe they're a first round exit. Next year, maybe they're a second round exit. The third year, maybe they're a second or conference final exit again. And then, boom, it just feels like maybe that will be the time that they could hit their stride. You're going to have some of these other teams, that are in the higher conferences, and teams like Milwaukee and Boston and stuff like that are probably going to be very different, right? And so you feel like in the next like 3 years, it's like, okay, OKC could be taking those steps, could be taking those strides. The Nuggets, Jokic is eventually going to get older, right? Murray, like, are they going to keep them together? But even then, like, they're young enough to where they could be a force for a while. But even if they are, right, like the Warriors are going to, very likely in 3-4 years aren't going to really be a thing. We'll see where the Lakers are at because the Lakers are the Lakers. They always seem to get some pieces. But, you got to imagine the next 3-4 years they're not going to have LeBron James. So how does that look? Are they able to get that other star immediately? The Phoenix Suns, they'll be phased out by that point. And then it'll just kind of be the rise of these young teams, these new teams. And, there'll always be that team that maybe, pushes their chips in, go gets that other piece. But the Thunder could end up being that team. I mean, it's not that far-fetched to think that the Thunder could be one of the top 2, maybe 3 teams in the Western Conference literally in the next like 2-3 years, right? Like, I really do believe that. So I just need them to continue to stay the course. But I mean, this team has looked nice. I really like what we've seen from this team. They're a lot of fun to watch. SGA is dynamic. Chet is starting to come into his own. You got to imagine in the next few years, I mean, Chet could be easily a top 15, maybe even a top 10 player in the next few years. Same thing with SGA. Many people already have SGA in the top 10, which, I wouldn't really argue you if you did. And Chet could very well be in that in the next few years. Right? I mean, his versatility. I mean, a lot of people talk about Victor Wembanyama. Chet was Victor before Victor, or last year, right? Like he's Victor without the PR. Is kind of what it feels like. This guy has the versatility, can shoot from the outside the perimeter. I mean, he doesn't have like the crazy freakish type plays and wingspan and stuff, but I mean, he's still 7'1", right? He has some like crazy, I think it's like 7'6" wingspan. So he's got good size, good length too, can block shots, and you're seeing that on the defensive side. Could basically do everything, right? Handle the ball, bring it up the court. So watch out. I'm just saying, watch out for this team. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel about the Thunder? What do you think of their look so far? Do you think like, this is a team that definitely can make some noise this year? Do you think that they're a couple years away before being like a real, not necessarily contender, but like, playoff threat? Do you think that they could be a playoff threat this year? Do you think that they could beat, maybe any of the teams not named, like the Suns, the Nuggets, and like the Lakers maybe? Because I think that those will probably be the top 3 teams. Or do you think like they could even beat them? Do you think that they have a chance against Denver or like Phoenix or something? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot, lets me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notifications. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.